Hello, my name is John Guinivere. I'm the owner of GuinivereConsulting.com, and I'm 55 years old, and I've helped a lot of people over the years get their businesses going, improve the business they already have going, or get people out of trouble sometimes. A little bit of PR or quick thinking. And, excuse me, I also mentor for score.org. I highly recommend if you need some help. There's thousands of score mentors all around the country. You can go to score.org and ask for help, and they often you'll get someone who's in your industry or in the industry you'd like to get into. So I thought I'd do a business startup 101 video. I'll break this down into different parts, but I'm also going to post the whole thing for those of you who want from beginning to end. So I've got 6 sections here. And the first section I want to talk about is evaluating your idea. So maybe you've got an idea that you think would be a good business. And so what I would suggest is first you sort of come up with a pitch. Like how you'd sell it to somebody, so you can get some feedback and talk to your friends and your family about what it is you're thinking about doing, and see what they say. I'm not going to say that everybody's going to give you the best feedback, because sometimes people are just negative about anything new, or just negative people. So don't take one person's advice or evaluation as gospel. So have some other people listen to what you have to say and what you want to do. Then let's say you've done that, and now you want to sort of figure out, is it a viable idea? So how do you figure out if it's a viable idea? Well, one of the things you can do is sort of run the numbers. So let's say you want to do a pie shop, and so now you need to find out what the rent is going to be for a pie shop. That's a guesstimation, of course, but you can talk to some commercial real estate agents. So what's your rent going to be a month? What's your equipment going to cost? What are your employees, your ingredients, your utilities, your insurance to insure it, and write all that down and figure out what your monthly costs are going to be to even open the doors, and then figure out how many pies you're going to have to sell at a profit to make enough money to pay the costs and to pay yourself, to make it worthwhile for you to do this as a job, and maybe quit the job you have. So if you pencil it out and you're close to what you think you can, how many pies you can sell, and you're close to how much money you need to make a month to make it worthwhile, then at least you can say, okay, this is probably going to be worthwhile, and then go to the next step. So when I say the next step, I talk about checking your competition, because if there's 20 pie sales places in your area and they make insanely good pies, what's going to be your advantage? How are you going to overtake their customer base and make some of their customers your customers? So you really need to, no matter what it is, if it's pies or pencil holders or a detail business for cars, whatever it is, it's worthwhile to see what your competition is doing, and that can be just go buy some of their pies and taste them, see what the costs of their pies are, what kind of ingredients are they using. Are they using fresh berries or berries out of a can? Sometimes our comparisons aren't exact, but just get an idea what your competition is like in the area. So here you are, you're step one. You've okay, I want to do this. I want to go to the next level. So the next phase, I always tell people is, you need a name. You to make something sort of real. We start with a name. So if you got a name in mind, then see if a domain is available. You can go to GoDaddy.com and see if the domain is available. And another thing you might want to check is going on to Google. Google, you can do a trademark search. So if you want to name your pie shop Coca-Cola, you're going to be out of luck because Coca-Cola.com is taken, and Coca-Cola is obviously trademarked. So if you tried to trademark it down the road, you're not going to get it, and you're probably going to get sued by Coca-Cola for using their name on your business. So you want to come up with either a unique name or at the very least a name. If it is trademarked, the word is trademarked and the name is trademarked, you want to make sure it's in a totally different industry. So generally when people trademark, they have to specify the industry that they're covering. So that's worth looking into. And so you've got a name and you checked out there's the domain's available, you bought the domain, you've checked out the trademark. The next thing to do is just pop up a Facebook page as a business using that name. And the reason that's important is if down the road you decide you do want to trademark it, the trademark office will look at who used it first. So you can prove the day you used it first by starting a Facebook page, because that'll give a date of when you first started, and you can use that as proof that you were before another guy doing that. So it's a nice, easy way to copyright something and get it up there. So the next thing you need to think about is how are you going to structure this? So there's a lot of ways to structure a company. One, for myself, I'm solo. I'm sole proprietor. So with the state of Ohio, I filed a DBA, doing business as Guinivere Consulting. So the state knows that I'm here and I'm doing that, and I think it was $25 or $30, and I got it in a day. So it depends on if you're doing a LLC or S or C corp, how much the fees are. They had a expedited fee for a bunch more money, but I guess they are overstaffed maybe. But I had it the next day in my email, so I could print that off and go down to the bank and open up a bank account under that name. So some of the other choices you have for incorporating or creating an entity is an LLC, which is a limited liability company, and it's worthwhile to do some research on what that means, what that entails, and how you can raise money and who you can raise money from. And then there's also C corp and S corp, and those, mostly the biggest difference between the two is how the money's taxed. Is it taxed as you make it, or is it taxed to the individuals who you pay out to? So do some research on those and figure out which is best, for what you think you're gonna end up doing. And it's also worthwhile talking to a CPA who does businesses, and might cost you $50 to sit down and talk to someone for 20 minutes or a half hour, but definitely $50 that's worth spending. So the next part, now you've got a DBA or you filed for your LLC or S or C corp, you gotta get a bank account. And the reason I say you have to have a bank account is no one is gonna write Joe Blow a check for his business, which you have to have as a business account because they want to make sure you're legit. A legit company has a bank account. It's the basics. If you can't get a bank account, you probably have something bad in your past, and that's a great sign for an investor not to invest in you. So definitely set up a bank account, and also choose the bank you're going to bank with carefully. It it's important to have a good relationship with the top guy at the bank, the chief banker or the head banker at where you're going. So try to start a relationship with that person, get to know them a little bit, tell them what you want to do, and while you're it's usually like an hour of you and that person setting up the account, and that's a great time to ask questions about small business loans and is this bank the best bank for what you want to do. So if you're going to apply for a small business administration loan, SBA loan, it makes sense to also use the same bank for that you're applying to. So that's it for banking right now. The fifth part, let me get to my notes here. Sorry about that. Okay, so the fifth part is you've got all those things lined up. And so now you're actually sort of ready to go into the, creating the collateral, the business stuff you need to attract investors. So we often talk about the elevator pitch. So the elevator pitch, so it goes back to this scenario where you've always wanted to pitch your idea to the CEO of a company. And you get on the elevator with this CEO that you've always wanted to pitch it to, and he's on the top floor, so you have the time from the bottom floor to the top floor to tell him, pitch your idea to him and get him interested. So it's concise, it's packed with lots of information, it drives the idea home in quickly and fast, and you stop and you wait to see, did you do it right. So what I often did is I pitched my idea to everybody. I'd pitch it, the person behind me, if they saw what I had on my t-shirt, marketing my company. I'd pitch the idea to a little lady at the supermarket. I pitched it to friends. I pitched it to potential investors. And you pitch it to everybody because you get better at it. And it comes off easier and easier. And it's more sincere the more you know it. And you change it as time goes by. But the pitch is important because it sort of becomes the basis of what it is you want to pull off, or what deal you want to create, or what business you want to start. So the pitch is really important. Also around doing the pitch is the mission statement. So the mission statement is, a very short paragraph. It's I'm Bob, and I make the greatest pies in the world. I use my grandma's recipes, and I use the freshest ingredients, and I make pies every day at a reasonable price. That's a mission statement. Come get my pies. So it also gets you to think about, homing in on what it is your company, your business, or your service is going to do. So the pitch is great. So you've got A and B, which is your elevator pitch and your mission statement. So the next thing you want to put together if you're going to look for money, whether it's from SBA loan or friends and family or investors or angels, any of those. What you want is an executive summary. And I found that the executive summary, and I try to keep them down to one page, I don't care how big of an idea you have. The executive summary is really what is going to latch on to a potential investor, and it's going to pique their interest. And it's more important, actually, I believe, than the business plan. It's like a mini business plan. So make it, catch someone's attention. The first paragraph is like a book. The first paragraph is what really is important in a well-written book, and it grabs you and makes you want to read all the other paragraphs. So keep it interesting, keep it informative. Tell them from A to Z as quickly as possible what it is you're trying to accomplish. Maybe mention how much money you're looking for, the structure of what you're going to do, where you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, but keep it simple and keep it stupid, as we say, and have lots and lots of people read it and make sure that they're getting what you're saying. Sometimes, I went through this mistake a lot in the early years, is I thought it was the person looking at my deal who didn't understand what it was that I was trying to accomplish. And what I found out over time is I didn't write it in a way or pitch it in a way to make it understandable. So making it understandable, and that's your job. It's not the investor's job. That's your job. So if no one's biting, or no one's interested, or no one's complimenting you on your idea, you may very well not be doing a very good job at explaining it. So an executive summary is a great way to put that in writing. Also, around this part, and it's part of it, it becomes part of your business plan, is strategic partners, and maybe even actual partners, or people you're working with that bring on credibility and experience. So who are you working with? If it's solo, it's solo. So then you're working with your own abilities and your own experience, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you've got a bigger idea and you're great at one part, but you're terrible at counting, you might want to say, I've got this accountant. Or if you're going into video services and you have no background in it, you say, I'm using this editor, I'm using these guys to shoot. They have years and years of experience. That's an example of the people you might want to partner with, and then or employ, depending on your situation. So a lot of times, especially when we're in the beginning era of a business, it makes more sense to have private contractors for these things, unless you get so busy that it's worthwhile bringing someone on board full time and making them yours, so you can count on them, being available. So lastly is the business plan, and I gotta say, there's these templates for business plans that are out there, and a lot of people use them, and I truly think they're terrible. They ask you to fill out stuff. What's this, what's that, who is this, who's that, and the problem with it is people tend to answer these questions the way they're asked. And people who read lots of business plans, investors, in particular, they just know it's a template, a format, and they just are so boring. So if you're going to use a template, keep that in mind, that your answers need to be better than the questions asked, I guess, is the only way to say that. So that's my advice on business plans. And like everything else, have everybody read it and give you lots of feedback before you actually hand it to an investor. And hold it back. You know, a business plan is actually for someone who's a serious investor. So wait till you get to that point. So that's number 5. So this is, you know, you've got all those things lined up, and the most important part is raising money if you need it. You know, some people do bootstrap, and bootstrapping means that you're just going to use what you have. So let's say you're going to do a detail company, and you're going to use the rags you have in your laundry room, and you're going to buy some, you know, polishes and some buffing compound and some Armor All, and you're going to use your vacuum, and that's bootstrapping. So you go out there and maybe you get 5 clients and you got a little money, so you keep upgrading. And bootstrapping is just using your own money and increasing the value of your business by doing it that way. The other way of doing it is small business association loan, and the SBA has all sorts of rules. They tend to give money to certain sectors more than other sectors. It really depends. So while you're sitting there with the banker and you're creating your bank account, ask that banker about the SBA loans that they offer. Ask them if they think that you'll qualify and what you need to do to qualify, and they'll probably hand you an application at the same time. There's a fair amount of paperwork for an SBA loan, so just keep that in mind. And I found out there's 2 types of SBA loans, or people who do SBA loans, actual people. One is a guy on commission, and another is a guy who's not on commission. If the guy's on commission, he tends to be a lot more aggressive in getting your loan through, because that's how he gets paid. So if you can find someone who is on commission, I would recommend it. The second form of investment money is what we often refer to as OPM, other people's money. So what is that? Who are these other people? Well, the other people can be friends and family, and a lot of time we use these folks, excuse me, to get started. So friends and family, they might put in $500 or $1,000, and you might get 10 people, and that gives you the money to get things, you know, going to get to the next phase, or it's enough money to open the door. So it really depends on how much you need. Do you need 10 grand or do you need $1 million? So 10 grand, often you can get it from friends and family, which is great if you get that kind of support to get things rolling. It might be enough to get things rolling to get to the next phase. Another form of raising capital, another way of getting your deal funded, is grants. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about grants. I've never gone through that process. There are people out there who specialize in doing grants. There's, from what I understand, plenty of paperwork, and there's not just paperwork, it has to be filled out in a certain way to get a yes versus a no. So it's worthwhile finding someone who has that experience, and you're probably going to have to pay them. So maybe that friends and family money, some of that goes towards finding a grant. And it's worthwhile finding out if you even qualify for grant money. It really depends on the kind of deal you're doing. generally grant money doesn't have to be paid back, so that's also a nice aspect of grants. So one of the ways I've raised money in the past is with a private placement memorandum. So private placement memorandum is a way to sell stock that is not registered. So the Security Exchange Commission allows two types of PPM that I know of, and many of the rules have changed. It's been a while since I've done it. So one's a 504 and one's a 505. So the 504 allows you to raise, I believe it's $1 million, might be per year, and you raise the money from sophisticated investors. So the term sophisticated investors means that the investor has a certain net worth and makes a certain amount of money per year. So these tend to be, riskier investments. They're not traded on an exchange. It's a startup or early phase of a company. So the SEC wants to make sure that the people who invest in your company at this point know, where they stand. That it's risky, and they can afford to lose the money versus just buying some stock on through your Schwab account or whatever. So it's a great way to raise money. I used it successfully to raise money with a 504 ppm. Generally, a 504 ppm is sort of like a business plan that you've handed to an SEC attorney, and the SEC attorney adds all the legal jargon to it, so that it covers scrutiny, and so you are given the ppm which you give to your investor, and before they invest, they have to sign a 5 or 6 page subscription agreement, which also warns them, this is sort of a risky deal. It's not a regular, stock sale. They sign that, so it also creates a buffer between you and the investor. So the investor can't come back and say, I had no idea I could lose my money if things don't go well. So there's two forms as far as I know, a 504 and a 505 private placement memorandum. So definitely at this point, you're already with an SEC attorney. They can help you figure out which one's the best scenario for you. And so that pretty much covers all the ways I know of raising money. So that's my Boot Camp 101, starting a company. And if you have any questions for any of those sections or anything that I didn't answer, by all means, send me an email to John at GuinivereConsulting.com. Thank you.